Okay, our goal is to make one of these double jewel hearts. And we're using these teardrop shaped jewels. First of all, we need to make a form, a jig that we can build this in. We're using a Fordham flexible shaft tool, or you could use a Dremel, and you're creating a depression that the jewel will lay flat in, so that the accompanying jewel will sit flat on top of it. So the next step is to wrap these jewels with foil, and the foil needs to be pretty thin. I have some 532 rolls of foil, but they're really hard to come by. I don't have any for sale. So I'm going to take some sheet foil here, and using a piece of glass and a snap blade knife and a ruler, I'm going to cut me a strip as the width that I want, and then use that to wrap the jewel. I'm having the smooth side up because I want to regulate how far that is going to overlap, and then the rest will just go to the other side of the jewel. Overlapping the start point, snipping it off, pressing it firmly against the edge of the jewel, folding it over, tucking in those corners. Then I'm going to push it flat. Use a Lathkin here to flatten the foil against the glass. So we've got two jewels wrapped now with foil. I'm wearing a cotton glove with a latex glove over to keep the flux off, and we're fluxing the foil so that we can tin the copper before we put this together. I'm going to be using lead-free solder in case this is something that's going to be worn as a pendant, for instance, or against your skin. You don't want to be using lead solder containing lead. The lead-free solder requires a little bit higher melting point, so you want to make sure your iron is nice and hot. I have tips for this iron that are 800 degrees instead of the normal 700 degrees. So we just bite off a little solder, and I'm just making this silver. I'm not really trying to get a bead or anything. Normally when you're wrapping foil, you want to have the start and stop point be on an interior edge. Unfortunately, with this project, there is no interior edges because the heat from the iron tends to make the end of the foil lift. Right after the jewels have been foiled and tinned, you stick the one upside down in the little jig here, line this one up so that the points meet and you have the shape you need. Take some flux, and then just put a little dab of solder. Join them together. Next, you want to put some extra solder around the edge, just straight down and straight up. This makes the edges stronger and prettier. You have a nice rounded edge there. You have to keep turning the piece so that the part you're soldering is level with earth, because you're floating a liquid on the edge of this glass. Once you've got the edges soldered, we'll put a little hook, a little jump ring on there. Now, if you don't happen to have pre-made jump rings, you can easily take a piece of wire, make sure it's nice and shiny, wrap it around some cylindrical shape, like so. Slide it off. Then use some side cutters and just cut through the top edge here. And you've got yourself a bunch of jump rings. So I'm going to take one of these jump rings and tin it so it's going to be the right color, and it's going to readily attach itself to the hearts that we're making here. I'm going to make sure the opening is what's going to be buried in the solder. I'm going to use this third hand device to hold my jewel in place, putting the jump ring in this orientation in order to make it align right when it's got a chain or a cord to hold it around somebody's neck. Then just make it the right color for the rest of it. Touch it up a little bit here. And there you go. Next, it needs to be washed off very thoroughly so that all that flux gets removed. If you wanted to put a patina on there, you could. After that, you're done.